in the den of iniquity. Vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment. What a pity. Tomorrow never certain. What dwells behind the curtain? The face of evil smirking with that shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble, could either pop or topple. Many will fall and stumble. Let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso. Cannons could breach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. With the rubble steady rising, and hearts are compromising. Convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming, and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these your circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances, and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest, and the righteous in your corners.
Make sure you repeatedly drop your link in the chat for the actual show and the YouTube.
Cool.
Throughout the show. Hello, welcome to the show, everybody. It's Man Tomorrow here. I want to thank y'all for like, sharing, commenting, and subscribing to my channel. This is episode 3 of Minds of the Manosphere. We have Ike. Could you keep saying it really fast on your actual stream? Oh, guy mean. Right?
Okay. Yeah. 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 The hard G is the most important part.
Okay. Okay, man.
Yeah.
Oh, guy man. Oh, guy man. All right, there we go. Yeah, and pretty excellent brother who's come to the Manosphere, has a really good channel that I suggest you subscribe to. And we're just gonna have an interview and a conversation. That's why we get his subscribers up. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. So what's going on, Ike?
I'm chilling, man. I am doing very well over here in 2021, where we're not allowed to leave the house and all that kind of stuff. But I'm doing well. I can't, no complaints. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing all right. Right now I'm in Oak Grove, Missouri, on my way to Columbus, pick up in Columbus, go back to Salt Lake City, then back to Denver. So yeah, man, I really like what I do out here. It's just a couple questions though. When did you get into this meditation thing? Like when did you get into that?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. So I would say that actively, consciously, it was more about, let's say, about 17, 18, that kind of a time, right? But in reality, I've always been very, very interested in what you might call subjective consciousness, right? And my head is a little cut off here. I'm still struggling with this. I'm used to the StreamYard settings, but and make sure that my thing here shows up properly on YouTube. But I would say that generally speaking, I've always been interested in that living your life from the inside out kind of aspect, right? If you will. I've always been that kind of person. And this is the benefit, with the benefit of hindsight, right? Now looking backwards, right? It's not like I was growing up and I was thinking that. Because when you're growing up, you're just thinking everybody's like you, generally speaking, right? So, but when I look back, I realized that even as a kid, as about 6 years old and so on and so forth, there were certain things that I used to do, certain habits, certain states, things that I used to like to go play with internally that I now realize, oh, I was meditating, right? I was doing certain meditation type techniques, but it was about 17, 18 and so on, that as a result of listening to certain kinds of programs out there, I'm very interested in, let's say, science and philosophy, okay? And then religion, spirituality, so whatever it may be, okay? I'm that guy, right? I've always been that guy, always been interested in that kind of a thing. But inevitably it's going to lead you to the path of, okay, what is this consciousness thing, subjective consciousness thing? What is this meditation thing? What is this? What are they doing? Can I get into this? Okay. I never ever quite limited myself in any particular regard in terms of these kinds of pursuits. So listening to certain kind of radio programs, obscure ones, kinds of things people would not typically listen to, I said, let me get into this. Let me start practicing this. And then step by step, I started immersing myself into the practice myself. And just the last thing on this, with respect to this particular question, is I'm the kind of person where I don't want to follow, when it comes to cooking, for example, I don't like to follow recipes. Okay. I'm not a chemist. I don't like to measure and look at this, blah, blah, blah. I like to go in there, experience it for myself, use my own nose and my tongue and so on and so forth, and kind of be creative with things. So when I just get the hint of a direction that something is leading me towards, in this particular case, meditation, I go in myself and just start practicing it and start unearthing the different truths that are in there, the different systems and so on and so forth. And then I go back and I look like, okay, let me see what these people are actually talking about. Maybe I crack open a book and I say, oh, it verifies what I have found, right? So that in a nutshell, no matter big nutshell, is how I got into it. Always been into subjective consciousness, always lived my life from the inside out, was always that kind of intrinsically motivated type of person that has always been interested in all kinds of intellectual pursuits. Then you're going to get led inevitably to this particular nexus here. And then I just take it on myself to go practice by myself and come up with my own system, and then come back up out of the water, if you will, and then look around to verify that the things that I found are not just pure self-delusion, but they actually make sense that other people have found it with their own systems as well.
Okay, so what you're saying is that you, no matter what the actual issue or topic is, you kind of study it internally first before you externally validate it, no matter what it is. That's what you're saying.
Yes, yes.
Okay, nice.
It's just easier for me that way.
Yeah. So you originally from the U.S. or?
No, I was born and raised in Nigeria,
Oh,
Benin
nice.
City. Yeah. Edo State, Midwestern Nigeria, and Nigeria is Western Africa, right there in the trigger, if you will, of Africa, right? And I came over here when I was 17. But
Oh, nice.
yeah, I came over here when I was 17 as a result of winning a visa lottery where you get the green card and stuff. So Nigerian through and through, born and raised, at least in terms of my formative years and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
All right. So the field that you're in now, were you kind of cultured or nurtured or pushed into going into it? And what was that process like for you to come over here at 17, get to like immerse yourself in the American experience, and then like start off doing like your engineering piece? Like what was that process like?
So a lot of the stuff when it comes to how, especially if you are not just within your family, but also within your neighborhood and then within your larger extended family, your city, your tribe, if there are certain expectations, then it's almost invisible. Nobody tells you explicitly. In other words, it's implicit. It is implied that you're gonna do something. There was never a question of, are you going to college or not? It's, of course you're going to college. And no one even ever said, of course you're going to college. It's just part of the whole, milieu, the soup, the pot that you're kind of boiled in, right? Because you see it everywhere. So there was never a question that I was going to pursue higher education, right? Everybody was doing that. There was never a question, even if it was not a question of higher education, that you were going to strive for excellence because you see that all around you. Now,
Okay.
I kind of have a particular advantage because it's I would say actually it's good to point out, especially with hindsight, when you look back and you say, okay, well, let me at least say, because not everybody grew up the way I grew up, right? So my family is a little bit of a, what you may call an aristocracy, right? The Ogiamia family, you could look them up in Benin City, blah, 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 right? So not only was it a question of your basic, what you may call middle-class values, right? Strong work ethic, whatever, call it Protestant values, whatever you may want to call it. But there was also something else where it's just, there was all around me all the time. It was all these ceremonies and, the chief, and we're dealing with the king of the kingdom and your history and who you are. In other words, there was a strong sense of a transcendent personality where you're not just some little thing over here. You need to, there's a strong line of connection of your patrimony, if you will, right? So in hindsight, looking back, I know that was an advantage that I had, where it was not just a question of, again, basic middle class stuff, go ahead, get your education, do well, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you come from a line of somebody who conquered this particular area and fought the king, he won, they had to do a truce, that kind of a thing. So you can kind of imagine what that'll put in your head, right, coming up.
Yeah, because people don't understand like the environment, whether good, bad, or negative or positive, has a long-standing moniker on where you're going to end up at later on in life. And a lot of people don't understand that these things are choices that has been made in the previous generations before you even got here. And the only thing you're doing is carrying on the lineage, no matter what that is, through choice. And a lot of people want to make choice seem like something it is passive or something that you can wait on. But you are surrounded by it. This is why I keep telling people that with understanding and knowing power, women know it better than men. But people who grew up in your type of setup are immersed and surrounded with it. So it's not like you don't understand how it works. Your whole life experience is that. And you see all these things around you, and then you get your shot and your chance to go out there and do the things and compete on the national stage.
100%. Yeah, you a big part of who you are, your identity is a storyline, and that storyline has already begun before you came in. Basically, is what you're saying, right? There is a story that's already part of you. Come into the family story, the tribe story, your city story, right? And you're gonna just take a role. You're gonna play a character in that storyline, and by definition, the plots, the subplots, and the other characters in the storyline are gonna affect, your it's going to be your springboard, your starting point, or at least it's definitely going to affect you, right? Obviously, you need to be able to rise above that to be able to individuate and be an individual, right? But it definitely helps, and that's why I always want to mention it, because not everybody grew up that way, especially not in this society where it's not like you can I can trace my family back to the 9th century or even further back if I wanted to, right? Before they moved to West Africa, even, that kind of a thing. But not everybody can do that.
Yeah. So how often do you go back?
I was back not so often until recently. So before it was more like about, I was here at least 16 years before I went back the first time. So I came here in 1999, the end of 1999, so 2000, right? So now in 2021, I've been here about 20 years or so, a little over 20 years. So first 16 years didn't go back. And then recently I've been going back more often. And as a matter of fact, on Thursday, right, this Thursday, I'm flying again. I'm going to be in Ghana and Nigeria and Kenya for about a month. Prior to that, it was 6 months ago I was there. So been going there more often recently, but before that, just didn't. And again, it's a personality thing where it's like, I tend to be more of an out of sight, out of mind kind of person. I just put my nose to the grindstone, focus on stuff. I'm not a person who misses things per se, because things are in my mind. I don't have to go there and touch and, see the thing, or it's a, one may even call it an egotistical, hyper individualistic type of person that I am, but 100, and it's, if you're asking me who I am, presumably this is, minds of madness for who is this guy? Well, then I like to state quite clearly who I am, especially if you go to my channel. For those of you who are going to go to my channel, you'll see, that, this is that type of person, right? So, and that's in line with why I didn't go there quite often until recently.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just that when you do go there, how are you received when you go back? Like when you first went back there, how was you received when you went back?
That's interesting. Uh, so the first of all, the way I received it was more like just riding a bicycle, where it's like, okay, I get right back into the saddle, and I just go with the flow of what I remember, and what I remember is deeply inculcated in me. And then how I'm received, very warmly, very cordially, in the manner in which, and again, it's also how I am receiving the place and interacting with this with the place, right? So I know what to do. I know how to carry myself. I know the places to go. I know what to say, and then people react in a reciprocal fashion. But definitely, no, I have no issues whatsoever. So if you were talking about the positive versus negative dichotomy, definitely positive, and for me, definitely like riding a bicycle with a little bit of things here that I needed to just kind of that was kind of jarring in terms of remembering, like service. And this is a question of service everywhere else outside of America. Service is a lot better, right? People actually have good. Well, maybe not everywhere. I haven't been everywhere, right? But the way people treat you there, let's say at the hotel or so on and so forth, definitely people are very deferential, very, very, very focused in terms of how making sure that you have a good experience, and so on and so on and so forth. That was a little jarring to me, just remembering, but I did remember that. Oh yeah, this is kind of how we roll over here, that kind of thing. But it's been so far a very positive experience.
Oh, nice. And were you the first of many to receive this type of visa in your type of setup, or is this something that's kind of normal for you to come to the U.S.?
So this visa lottery thing is something that the U.S. has been doing for since forever, but it is, as you can imagine, very competitive in terms of, well, it's a lottery, and you have, I think, about 100,000 a year, or it fluctuates. I don't know what the number is right now, but you have billions of people in India and China and everywhere. Everybody's trying to do it, right? So, and no one else within my family that I know of has actually won that. I actually did not know that I was playing the part of it. I just remember one time, I'm still in high school, maybe like 15 years old or something. They're like, "Oh, you got to take your passport photographs or whatever." You, I took a passport photo. I did not actually fill out the form. My aunt in the United States in New York filled out the form for me. It's a very simple form. Put the passport, write some basic information, and that's kind of how the process got started. So when I got the letter back, and there's several steps you need to go through before you finally get the thing, right? Several little sifting processes and so on and so forth. So when I got the first letter back saying, "Hey, you've been selected, to take the next steps," I was kind of surprised. But basically, I was about, let's say, 16, so it was not time for me to have graduated high school yet. But you needed to have gotten that certificate. They called it the GCE. You need to have graduated high school. So I had to kind of study up to get that thing a year ahead of time, right? And that really taught me a lot of things about how I operate and how I study, and also that you can do stuff. We're talking about the outside of America. The education system is very strict, very crazy. It's that European education system, whether the German or the English or so on and so forth, right? Things are hard. Things not easy. Okay, they'll hold you back. There is no bullshit about just making you progress and so on and so forth. So it was not easy for me to graduate a year ahead of time, if you will, uh, by teaching myself. So I learned how I learn. The word is autodidact, right? I knew back then, oh, Ike is an autodidact. Ike learns best. And I kind of already mentioned it before that I like to go study things internally myself before, and then go back only for verification. So in this particular process, I had to go study and then jump through all the other hoops that they put in front of you, do the interviews, blah, blah, blah. And then by the time I was about 17 and a half, I was in New York.
All right, nice. So, all right. So you win the lottery. You come to New York. You're 17 years old. What was the education journey like from going through the actual education for being an engineer? So, what was that like?
Good question. By the time you are, let's say, 13, you choose whether or not you're going to go into, that's in over in Nigeria now, or the English or the European system. You're going to choose whether or not you're going into the sciences, the social sciences, or the arts. So that
Oh,
split
that
happens.
early? That
Yes.
early? So
Yeah.
so it's like, so you don't wait till you're 17 or 18 years old to kind of go figure it out for yourself. You get to choose way earlier. I mean, because Germany like that. Because I lived in Germany for like
Mm,
some years when I was in the military, and that's how it was for them. Like you got to pick, or not really pick. You got to be socialized into the work environment, the workforce, very early there. So once you graduated at like 18, you knew what the steps was to get whatever type of job it is, and it wasn't left up to open interpretation like it kind of is in the United States based on what environment that you grow up in. So that's interesting that that does have or play into a better kind of result path. That if it's socialized in early, that way you could be able to see the actual outcome versus trying to figure it out yourself. That's pretty interesting.
yeah, I think so. America has a good post-secondary education system. In other words, tertiary university, right? At least good universities. Not that the whole system is good, right? But you have your top tier and even your middle. Like America has good universities, but below the university thing, it kind of really is just it's a little crazy. There's too much emphasis, in my opinion, on things like self-esteem. Um, Not enough emphasis on discipline, and perhaps it has devolved over time. Perhaps it was the case that prior to recent times, there was more emphasis on education and so on, I mean, on discipline and so on and so forth. But part of this emphasis on discipline is that that okay, but after the first 3 years of your what we the secondary school is 6 years. Okay, after the first 3 years, you're gonna know that you're going into one of these particular fields, and you take a test also before you move into the last 3 years. If you
Oh,
don't
nice.
pass that test, yeah, and this test is not a part of your regular school test. Like it's a separate kind of test. It's junior secondary school and then the senior secondary school. You need to pass into senior secondary school. You don't just go in, okay? And when you're passing into it, you're passing into a particular a group. Let's say science, social sciences, or the arts, right? So you got to know that. Now, I already knew that I was going to go into the sciences. Now, I was bad at math, but that's a question because of my eyesight, right? My eyesight is really bad, and you can't hear math. I learn with my ears because I have to kind of adapt for that. Can you see the blackboard, all that kind of stuff? Bad at math, but I knew I love physics. Physics was more you can get it conceptually, right? You don't need to see equations and so on and so forth. Now I know how to teach myself math and also how to teach people that are like me math, or people that kind of can get things from a conceptual level and not don't just are not good with dealing with symbols, because that symbol BS anyways. That's it. Anyways, I mean, don't get me into that. I knew that I liked physics, okay? I knew that I liked philosophy. I knew that I liked the science. Like, as I mentioned earlier when you were talking about the meditation thing, ever since I was a little kid, okay? I remember my sister reading this particular book to me about, Democritus and Aristotle and all these other different things, electromagnetic induction, all this kind of, I would memorize certain kinds of things. What is electromagnetic induction? Electromagnetic induction is whatever, and I would do my little kid stuff, and people are like, oh, that's impressive. But anyways, so I already kind of knew that I liked that stuff, even though I had to struggle through math. So I put myself through the rigors of dealing with the math the way I had to in order to make sure that I was going into the science. So now I'm in the United States. I'm 17 and I have to then decide where I'm going to go. I was thinking architecture or engineering, because I also like to draw, right? I'm a big art guy as well, but I knew I did not want to necessarily go into the arts because as a Nigerian, you know that money is in the front of your brain again, and nobody tells you that. It's like just kind of how it is, right? You're gonna have to make money, okay, and you know what money is good for. And in terms of the hierarchy, intelligence and money are on the top, not this stupid jock or stupid other thing that people tend to do over here, right? And some other communities especially some communities over here, especially swallow that BS whole cloth. In other words, what I call the aesthetic pursuits, arts and entertainment, being a dancing monkey, a singing monkey, a basketball dribbling monkey. That's bullshit. Okay. So the brain and your wallet, that's the main thing. Okay.
Right.
So how do I get this? I gotta get it through the sciences. I came over here and I was gonna have to wait before I started school in New York. So I came over to California to visit my cousins. While I was visiting my cousins, they said, "Hey, you could go to community college with us while you wait before you go back to New York." So I started going to Chaffey Community College, Rancho Cucamonga, California, Southern California, and you know, dirt cheap, right? It's as it still is right now. Community college is, and you can do your first 2 years there. So I did the thing whereby I'm getting ready to transfer to a 4-year degree with either architecture or engineering, and it's kind of similar. Okay. So I'm doing the physics courses and all these kinds of things that I knew that I needed to do. And the education thing just kind of came, it was easy for me because of my training. Because education in Nigeria or outside the United States, especially the pre-tertiary level, the secondary school level, or what you call the high school level, is a lot harder. It's the real deal. As I mentioned, you already got to know where they're going into the arts or the sciences early. So it's not BS. People don't play with you, and it's not all this self-esteem nonsense. This we got to make them feel good about themselves nonsense. It's no, you're going to be disciplined. You're going to get the work done. You're going to get your ass whooped. You get it done or not. You're getting held behind. If you fail, you're a fucking idiot. Everybody makes fun of you. You deal with it.
Yeah. So what people have to understand is not only is an environment, it's background, and it's also choice. Have you seen family members who did not make it as far as you did, and how they kind of dropped off?
100%. The choice aspect is 100% key. So even after everything I mentioned, I said it was not even, it was a given. It was a given in the family, a given in the tribe, a given in all of the families, a given in your neighborhood, right? That you were going to do something, make something of yourself. And I'm talking about someone of mine who's in my family too, whom not only was just a basic, shall we say, middle class type values, it was values of an aristocratic sort, which is you have to master yourself on many other levels, which is the subtext of it all, because you're being exposed to your ancestors and their stories, and and you see the rituals and the ceremonies and so on and so forth. You go through certain rites of passage yourself, right? And on and on and on. But still, this particular individual decided to, and he came over to the United States a lot earlier than I did, and he decided that he was going to go the other way. Okay. He was going to try to do the fast money thing. He was going to try to go the whatever route, right? Okay. And till today, this guy is at least 10 years older than me, okay, or more, right? And he took the wrong path. So choice is still very important. Everything you mentioned earlier about the environment, about the training, and so on and so forth are important. But I have within my own extended family, right, the number of people, well, at least this one is the most stark example that had all the advantages, was brought over here too, and then decided to make the wrong choices. Yeah.
Yeah, and what people don't understand in other cultures is that they don't waste an inordinate amount of time trying to get the people up to speed who really fell out of favor of what is socially obligated for you to do within the society. They just leave your ass behind and you just don't get another shot. That's how it is. And you normally, you don't get access to women, you don't get access to anything, because names are kind of associated with a level of success or failure through the track record. And a lot of people think that they're going to have this extra time later on to fix things and go ahead of other people who actually need the help. And this is just not how things operate and work everywhere else. This is why I say that a lot of this stuff happens before you're born. And then this stuff is actually chosen once you're actually here, because it's still choice whether or not you want to follow the path that is laid out before you, or else whether or not you want to learn more about the path to which you're actually going.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And what you say about the people being left behind, it's just kind of there is not a lot of, because you got to understand, in outside the United States, generally speaking, things are more closer to nature. And by nature, I mean that nature red in tooth and claw, the inequality of nature, the harshness of nature, the I'm not going to cater to your feelings aspect of nature. It's not an emphasis on freedom or rights. It's more responsibility. Okay. You're responsible for making things happen regardless of the natural circumstances you find yourself in. Natural circumstances involve also social circumstances. I don't care whether or not, okay, you find yourself in a strange land with strange people, or opportunities, or some kind of nonsense some people say about, well, I need to see more of my kind of person, or we don't see a lot of black people in this, but who gives a fuck who's there, right? It's insane to me. I just starts getting my blood boiling. Who cares who you see? What the hell are you talking about? Okay, this is the jungle. You're gonna either strive or you're gonna die. What do you need to see about somebody who made it or not made it? Okay. Again, closer to nature is where you understand that these things about self-esteem, rights, your feelings, you need to see somebody like that. When you get dropped in the jungle, all that shit goes away real quick. It goes away real quick. And it is survive or you die. You're the weakest link in the chain. You get take you know we got to remove that node from the network. As you mentioned, the name, the family, and so on and so forth is associated with certain kinds of things, and you're not going to bring us down either in real terms or in the terms of how we are viewed, right? Plus, again, I can't overemphasize it. In the real world, none of this stuff you have in your head about your emotions, your self-esteem, and this is a man's channel, right? So
Yeah.
we're talking to men here, so I don't need to. None of that crap matters. The stuff about, oh, your self-esteem, your this, your that, your rights. I need to see more black persons there. I was the only black person. Get the hell out of here, man. You'll get hit in the head with a sledgehammer talking that crap outside this environment.
Yeah. And what people actually don't get is the societal pressure to not fall behind. It's huge in other cultures that you are not going to do this to our people by going down XYZ said road. And different places like here it's just different. And it's like, when I was in college, I was with a lot of Nigerians and Ethiopians, and how their parents were up their ass about everything. They was like, they wanted to make sure that, and of course, all those people went on. Well, everybody who hung out with that group of us went on to do other things, but it was just amazing how involved they were with the process from beginning to end. And it did not matter what was going on. They needed a way to check the actual progress of their son or daughter in some cases, no matter what it was. So the family itself kept learning far beyond just actually them going through their high school or their college years. They wanted to understand the environment. And that's just the things that I was just kind of astounded by, because those people always wanted to be involved with the process. And they was able to live within the same environment and kind of thrive within that environment. Everything was about learning. And if you wasn't with learning, you was going to be easily left behind. And they kicked people out of the family. They told people you can't be here. They sent them back to Africa. They did stuff like that.
Yeah, the particular person I'm talking about in my family, for example, you just disconnect. You're not gonna. I'm not. I or others are just not gonna. They don't know where I am. They not know where the other people are. You're gonna not. It's hard for them to get, for this particular person to get access to us, right? We're not gonna do that whole cuddling thing. It does not work. People just pull you down. Individuals make their own choices. They can live with it. Plus, given the fact that we know that he's here in the United States, he'll be fine. It's one thing, because the same thing will happen even if it was in Nigeria. But at least in Nigeria, you might shed a tear or something for him. Be like, oh man, it's it's gonna be rough, right? But in America, the hell out of here. You'll be fine. And you can decide at any point in time in America, I don't care if you're 50, 55, whatever, to start to take the steps. If you don't take the steps, that's on you. I don't give a damn about you. Ultimately, I don't give a damn about you. Okay? Especially for men. I don't give a damn. It's on you. You make your choices and so on and so forth. Now, you were mentioning something and something came to mind, which is opportunities. When these Nigerians or Ethiopians that you went to college with, or Cambodians or Koreans or Indians, whatever the immigrant group is, when they come over here and they do well, what the natives need to understand, the natives of America, that is, whether it be ADOS or whatever, is that these people are taking advantage of opportunities right here on the ground. Nigerians don't go to a special Nigerian tree, okay, in Houston, Texas somewhere to go pluck opportunities. No, it is the opportunities that are available to you, everybody here. If only you would focus more on your responsibility, stop focusing too much on rights, stop focusing too much on politics. In other words, all this imagery stuff, men are supposed to build, okay? Not to be socially agitating all the time and talking all the time and talking about how you're being portrayed, or who gives a crap how you're portrayed, okay? Now, you don't hear the Indians complaining all the time about how they're portrayed. Yeah, you may hear a few idiots, whom have been inculcated in the social justice type of mentality doing that from several communities. But the Chinese don't care. The Indians don't care. The Koreans don't care. Nigerians don't care. It's like all this kind of stuff about social dynamics, that's not for men. Politics, I would say, even without leverage, that's not for men. In other words, you need to go build the lever, and it's an economic lever. It's money, it's power. And then you come into the space, and then you move things around. You don't go begging or saying, oh, my people, like, look, in the real life, we already know that that's going to just lead people to patronize you. People are going to pat you in the head. Oh, let's give him this. Let's give him that. And also, they're going to give you things that perhaps you do not actually deserve. To be honest, we see this thing, and let's say in certain all aspects, but academia, because academia is the kind of place where you can play those kind of nonsense games. In the real world, it doesn't really work that way. By the real world, I mean the non-governmental, non-academia, commercial spaces whereby competition is key, okay? And you can't fake, your accolades. So you have these people in academia. Oh, this PhD over here wrote some book and he gets all kinds of accolades, but you really know, or the people around, they know that book is not really worth crap. Okay. But, oh, he's black and he's got dreadlocks, right? He's different. He will bring some diversity and inclusion to our group. Let's give him this. Let's give him that. Look, everybody sees that for what it is, even the people giving you that crap, and how you could take it, how you could actually sit there and take that stuff from people is mind-boggling to me. Okay, the fact that everybody's looking at you as a freaking idiot, but you're taking their accolades because you've done your little social political agitation rather than build your economic base and then have a real lever to move things in the real world in the way men should care about it. You shouldn't give a crap how people look at you. You should only care about what you produce.
Yeah, and people don't understand that the means of production is major. And it's like there's two things that has been kind of flipped on its head, and you brought it up before. Image versus substance. People want to be taken seriously through image, but they don't want to be respected through substance. And that's kind of what the problem is among most people within the Western culture. They want to be celebrated. They want their names in the lights and all this kind of stuff. But all that stuff is a rarity. All that stuff you don't really have control over. Other people kind of control you to make money off of you in that specific framework. However, the average person or below average person can still learn and be productive within the environment. And that's not really focused on because everybody wants to be rewarded by the improper reward system. The improper reward system, the actual things are paltry. You're going to have to keep doing it over and over again. And you're not really going to get much out of it. And you're going to be on this hamster wheel on this type of nonsense because it's not based on substance, it's based on image. You're going to have to keep doing it a lot over and over again. And that's something that we just don't need to keep doing within the environment. Because right now, I call it masculinity. What we're seeing is kind of the erase of like productive, hardworking men from the environment to be replaced with these guys who don't produce and somehow is rewarded with sex. Like that's not going to be able to get you to compete on the world stage. And like what you said about people getting mad because not seeing the image of them there. Well, the image of a person being in a position is based on the hard work for those people to actually get there. Like, how can you want to see somebody in a place that you're not trying to create yourself within your own life? So how is it? I never got it, but people want to benefit off of being in certain places through image versus working hard and actually benefiting through substance. And that's something culturally that we can change within our lifetime.
Yeah, there is a nobility, okay, and this is an image-wise type thing now, to being a victim. In other words, it is quite feminine, and this is not to denigrate it, but the damsel in distress, okay, the woman in danger, the woman being victimized, all that is the female trope. It's part of the female, a particular female archetype, at least, not that it's always the case, but it works within a female narrative. And then you can kind of look at someone as noble as being a victim. But it does not work, again, in nature and in terms of cultures that are close to nature and all the archetypes and heroes' journeys and mythologies and so on and so forth that have come from nature. There is no man noble victim. There is no male damsel in distress. So taking on that trope of I'm a noble victim is disgusting for men when viewed from the eyes of other men whom are being real men about it. And I don't care who you are, you as a man, you know this, that nobility you're putting upon yourself as a result of what you, as a matter of fact, most of the time, you actually did not go through anything, okay? I don't care. You did not really go through anything. You can say your family went through stuff. You can say that your society or the structures went through stuff and so on and so forth. But as a man, you don't play that hand. Everybody can smell it from 10,000 miles away. Every other culture sees you doing that. You don't play that hand as a man. It is obvious when you play that hand, okay? And nobody respects you for it. The whole I'm a noble victim hand, look at me, give me a special place give me a special place on the table because I'm a victim hand is bullshit. Everybody sees it. Everybody can see you. You're not fooling anybody. Plus, it is counterproductive. You actually don't produce anything with that. And you can only get away with it in certain places, like I mentioned before, government or academia or the media, places where the image matters and places where BS can actually work. But in the real world, you'll never get anywhere. Behind closed doors, you're a laughing stock.
Yeah. And it's like most of the environment wants to be because the manosphere has kind of changed, and we got to bring it back to this original point: is educating people on the choices out there and staying the hell away from it. Because a lot of people think that, well, I'm going to learn through exposure. Like, no, you're going to learn through actual um, not going through this stuff, being aware, awareness versus the exposure. And that's what people don't really get, that you don't have to be all the way up in all of these things that are happening. A lot of stuff you're going to have to leave alone. And whatever you think is a reward system that you're going to get with dealing with it, by following the proper path, you're going to get those things anyway. It's just that people want it improperly. And once you're being, as you said, rewarded with something before it's proper time that you are supposed to be rewarded by, you start to get hooked on that. And you never really come back from it because you've been improperly rewarded. So once you've been improperly rewarded, now you want everything in life to come to you through an improper reward system. And it kind of messes up everything for you and it colors your whole worldview because now you don't think that you have to work as hard as everybody else because boom, I got this or I see this person got this through this specific type of way. So therefore I'm going to deliberately not work as hard as I know that I can so that way I can get an improper reward. And if it doesn't happen, victim, 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 victim. Nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, everything you say is 100% correct. And the reason I keep bringing it back down to nature is because nature is universal. That's why, because, and also now that the world is connected, I want it to be clear that no one is being fooled by certain games that certain people play. In other words, if you're still doing the noble victim thing, which I understand the allure of it, as I said, there is a nobility to it. People will grant you that. People will allow you. People will defer to you. Like, oh my God, they, he or they, or at least he has been able to convince me that he has suffered so much, right? But again, we know that that's a very, very feminine thing to do, and that they can, if to the degree to which they're actually feminine women and they actually they have their head on straight, they can actually play that card, and they should play that card correctly, But for a man to be doing it is ridiculous. So if we bring it back down to their universal standards. So being educated is a universal standard. It is not a white man thing.
Yeah.
Being productive is a universal standard. It is not a white man thing. Carrying yourself in a certain way, being well spoken, being an autodidact and learning, the hierarchies, if you will. In other words, the sage hierarchy, the warrior prince hierarchy, or the merchant hierarchy, right? All these hierarchies exist cross-culturally, universally, okay? You can look at the Indian society, for example, where they have the Brahmins, sage type people on top, and then underneath that you have the warrior prince, and then you have the merchant, and then you have the worker. All these different dynamics and different hierarchy games have been playing everywhere since forever. Not a white man thing, none of that crap. So another thing, and this is a America thing too. United States tends to be very insular. Not their fault. We're a continent, right? Or you have one ocean on one side and one ocean on the other side. You don't really have a lot of reasons to be intermingling and intermixing. So when you go to Africa, if it goes to Africa and other parts of the Mediterranean and Europe, that whole place there, that whole area has been cross-pollinating and doing cultural appropriation with each other since forever, right? You want to talk about Egypt, Greece, the Romans, ancient Mesopotamia, the Persians, right? These people have been passing around what we call Western civilization today is from there, because it's not Indian, right? India is where that whole Buddhist other thing, and then China, they're kind of different, right? But North Africa and the Mediterranean, if you will, all this stuff whereby, the Greeks come up, they say some things, I mean, they got some stuff from Egypt and shall we say Ethiopia, so on and so forth. The Romans conquer them, okay, take some stuff, switch it, put their own Roman spin on it, a more systematic spin, a more soldierly spin, rather than the spin of just sage philosophy type stuff. Then the Romans go through their dark ages. In that time, the Arab world, okay, is keeping Aristotle alive. Aristotle, no, there is no Aristotle in what you may call the West anymore. It's all in Arabic. And then later on, you have the St. Thomas Aquinas and so on and so forth coming back through the Catholic Church, if you will, to reinterpret Aristotle, they call it scholasticism, back into the mainframe of the West, the Holy Roman Empire. That's where Aristotle came back in through the church. In other words, all these things, which some people today, in a very myopic, just straightforwardly stupid way, call the white man stuff, No, this is universal Mediterranean culture from ancient times, Egypt, Persian, Roman, Greek, and everyone in between passing that football around as a result of being able to do commerce and communication and so on and so forth, because they're in the middle of that ocean there, or that sea there, the Mediterranean Sea, with many diverse peoples and so on and so forth. And then also right in the heart of where human civilization came from, where human beings came from, right? So the idea that there's this kind of, oh, it's a white man thing, just exposes emotional and, dare I say, intellectual and mental stuntedness of a certain kind, where you're either you're deceiving yourself, or you've just refused to take the blinders off to understand that you cannot continue to fool yourself anymore. These are universal standards. These things have been happening since forever. You cannot keep playing this stupid white black thing anymore. It's not about white and black.
No, and some of these things that it's going to be very hard for one generation. And for me, that's what it was hard for. Very hard for my grandfather's generation. Very hard for, but you're supposed to be taking the ball a hell of a lot further in the next generation. Like, like if I were to have a kid, they would know everything that I know at a very young age because I want them to actually succeed. But in most environments where everybody is stagnant, nobody actually goes out and teaches those particular things because they don't want to expose the fact that they're so far behind. And most people from other cultures, they're okay with their kids being way better than they are. They're okay with that. It's perfectly fine. The respect level is still going to be there.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
but within this context, the respect is kind of based on being in charge, being unjustly rewarded, and that's how you keep power through unjust reward and strategic and social and cultural silence. That's how it kind of works with this environment. Well, it doesn't work, but this is how it kind of operates, I guess you could say, within this environment.
Yeah, it operates that way, but there is an undertone and an undercurrent, as I mentioned earlier, of people who see what is really going on and understand that in the real world, again, in the world of production, you can't play that card. You're not going to come out. Your victim card is not going to help when you're trying to sell and convince somebody to buy your product. Your victim card is not going to help you deliver a better product, right? And deliver it on time. It is not going to work. You know, productivity is what matters, and productivity is cross-cultural. It is universal, and the problems that you need to overcome are also cross-cultural and universal. So if you get out of just the hood and you leave the Baptist church or something and you go to a Korean church, you're going to find the same problems. In other words, there is a issue whereby, and it's part of this insularity that I mentioned earlier, and generally is an American thing, but even within America, you can leave your own particular neighborhood, go to another neighborhood, and see that there are problems that everybody needs to deal with. But let's just start with the fact that you're a human being, okay? The biggest problems that any particular group of people encounter are human problems.
Yeah.
Let me say that again. They're the problems as a result of you being a sentient being that is aware of the fact that they're going to die, the anxiety of existence in and of itself, the ability to master this particular machine called the human being, and its user interface called your conscious being. It has these crazy feelings that come up in the body. It has images and talk in the head. It has a storyline, right, that can get affected. You know, somebody can insult your story, okay, your identity, your lineage. Someone can actually throw a stone there, okay, and it actually affects you. You know what I mean? These are the human problems. It is not a problem that only occurs in one community or the other. So the human problem is about 99% of the problems that any particular group of humans deals with. So when you start understanding that, oh, these human problems are universal, and that whatever solution any particular group has come up with, I can go learn from them and bring in. It's like mixed martial arts, right? We all know, you know, you can want to be like, oh, I'm all about karate, I'm all about taekwondo. Like, we know that no, in reality, your ground game has to come from wrestling and jiu-jitsu. Those are the guys who have perfected that aspect. Your striking game is going to come from boxing. your kicking game from kickboxing and maybe some taekwondo for form, blah, blah, blah. These are universal problems. You pick and choose from the different people that have perfected things in different ways. Each culture is a particular box. No box is perfect by definition. Anything that has a definition, okay, by definition, is limited. A definition defines, it puts a box around, it limits. Therefore, no one particular group, way, lifestyle is perfect. But in 2021, in a connected world, you cannot have the excuse of not knowing this, what I just said, which is you're not going to get everything from one martial art or one cultural set of values or lifestyle. And then B, not take advantage of the connectivity to be able to go ahead and pick and choose the best things when it comes to universal standards of productivity. And you can no longer hide into this kind of it's a black thing, it's a white thing. I'm going to do my black thing. And if I do anything else, it becomes a white thing. No one is being fooled by that nonsense anymore. It was never true. No one was ever fooled by it to begin with. But now in 2021, as connected as the world is, you need to give it up 100%.
Yeah, because here's the thing. Once you have peace and unlimited access to information, it's going to make a whole lot of people who never had opportunity get them. And what people wanted within the Black American, well, not Black American, but within a Western society was comfort at the bottom with no competition. And those type of things don't really work in an operational society. So it's like there are three things that people have to kind of understand. There is, the churn rate, the retention rate, and the success rate. So once you understand all three of those kind of things, you have to operate differently within your time period versus what you think culture is. And a lot of people don't understand. They want to experience change, but they do not want to evolve for some reason.
Well, yeah, again, the people you see around you taking advantage of opportunities or taking advantage of real opportunities, they're not, and you could argue, let's say, for example, there is a thing that people do. It's called deflecting, right? When somebody comes from a different country, it is implied that they're coming over here because there are more opportunities over here. It is implied, whether it be Nigeria or Cambodia or whatever, that they have problems over there, okay? And so let's say in Nigeria, okay, Nigeria not getting its shit together. Nigeria being cursed with resources, which is one of those things that you can actually be cursed with, okay? Because when you're cursed with resources, it's now about everybody fighting for this liquid gold, oil in particular in Nigeria, right? And then corruption, right? And not developing your human capital. Ghana, for example, doesn't have that issue. Ghana does not have a bunch of oil. Same thing happens with Russia, right? Russia has, natural gas, they have petroleum, right? So a lot of places that have that curse, that's one thing they have to deal with. And then they deal with the corruption, okay? And then you deal with the fact that even though dictators don't last in Nigeria, but we have to have dealt with them for a while. These people come in, they inflate the assets, they steal the money from the country, so on and so forth. So all kinds of issues with Nigeria, okay? But people do this deflection game whereby they don't understand, okay, the immigrant mentality is also a cross-cultural mentality, whereby you're not picking on you're going to pick on this particular person and say, well, why don't you go fix Africa, that kind of thing. It's like, okay, fine. No, you're not going to get any pushback from here, and you're not going to get any excuses vis-a-vis the issues which I just mentioned. Okay, notice I didn't say anything about the white man holding Nigeria back. I said,
no, me neither.
Yeah. Exactly, they're corrupt. They got this other thing, like they're too smart for their own good in a certain sense, right? And they're too money hungry for their own good in a certain sense. And then you have the fact that the tribalism as well. Okay. But the point is this: these immigrants come over here and they take advantage of opportunities that are on the ground right here in front of you. And you can learn something from the immigrant mentality. The immigrant mentality is the mentality that best takes advantage of opportunities because they're actually here expressly to take advantage of opportunities. So how can we learn from them? And again, take the culture out of it, you know, whether it be Indian, Cambodian with their donut shops, the Koreans with their laundromats, the Indians with their Silicon Valley type stuff, whatever it may be. Look at these communities rather than deflect and say, oh, but this and oh, but that, or even say, oh, but they're coming over here to take advantage of things that we fought for. We being those being the natives of America. Yes, they are taking advantage of opportunities that you fought for. And you this particular individual, 2021, no, you didn't fight for nothing, by the way. Let's keep it straight, okay? You didn't fight for shit, okay? The people who actually fought for it, we know those people who fought for the right stuff. But to be honest with you, the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness thing should be enough for you, and you should stop again agitating for these emotions, which are rights. Ladies and gentlemen, if nobody has broken it to you, rights are emotions. That's what they are, okay? They're feelings that you have. The most strong feeling is the feeling to want to preserve your life. That's where that life thing comes from. It does not mean it's not a feeling still, because you have other societies, other civilizations who are built on the sacrifice of life. You know what I mean? A different thing. So this life thing is not just some kind of it came down from God thing. It is a set of, as a result of the modern political project, and not to go too much of a tangent, but basically the modern political project says, hey, how can we ground a society? We ground it on the floor, on a solid floor, on a base. Ancient societies try to do it on a high level. Okay, they try to do it on this level of the perfect society, the perfect citizen, that kind of stuff. The modern says, hey, okay, no, let's just bring it down. What do we really want? Imagine this imagined state of nature, whereby it's the war of all against all. There's no civilization yet. No, anybody could come out of any corner right now and kill you and do whatever. What do you want? And everybody says, I want to live. Right? It's a feeling. It's not some kind of a logical argument, is what I'm saying, right? And then I want freedom as well. I don't want anybody to take anything from me. And I want the ability to be able to pursue property, right? Life, liberty, the pursuit of property. And then everything else that flows from there, once you unleash that can, that kind of emotions, people now say, well, how about my rights to be a fat slob and not be treated this way? How about my rights to see this kind of thing? How about how about my healthcare? How about all these other feelings come out, right? So rights are feelings, even the base ones, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. To continue to agitate for rights is to continue to agitate for your feelings. How about you take the flip side, which is responsibility? Okay, responsibility is not about your feelings. It's about what you owe the society, which has given you this thing, what you owe to yourself first and foremost, which is to develop yourself. That human machine, which we have, okay, know thyself, which is a human problem cross-culturally, that's your first responsibility, to go inward and manage that thing, to govern yourself. Before you can govern anything or demand anything from the world, you need to govern yourself. And then what do you bring into your immediate family and your community? What do you owe them versus what they owe you and what they owe your feelings, right? So a big aspect, again, three things I would say. The fact that the opportunities are here to be taken advantage of, that you see all these other people taking advantage of, they're actually here. Number two, that noble victim thing, it is a very weak hand. It is a disgusting hand, as a matter of fact. And then number three, responsibility, okay, over rights, especially as a man, because rights are emotions, okay? And this society has already given you the basic one, the life one, the ability to generally be able to move around in 3 dimensions. You may be like, but I can't move in 16 dimensions. 3 dimensions are enough, right, to be able to transact and make something better of yourself. So these 3 things, I would say, again, to repeat, opportunities are here. Noble victim, give it up. And forget this agitation for rights, which leads to the whole economics over politics thing, because you're going to be able to, you need to build that lever first, and then you take that lever, and that lever is economic power. You need to build the nodes first and then connect the nodes, right? Enough viable nodes such that then you can go into a political landscape and demand and make your demands that way.
Yeah, and what most people don't understand is what those people actually fought for was for the ability for you to be able to take part in it, whether you wanted to or not. And that's what people What they got was exclusivity, and it wasn't exclusivity. They fought for a system for you to be able to compete on a baseline level when you want to, whether you do it or not. And if other people slide in and they're taking advantage of the opportunity that you think of is exclusively yours, you have to take a long look at oneself and say, have I really done everything that I possibly have can in this particular situation to do the things that I need to do? And the answer is always they haven't, and it's like the moment they realize that this is the case, things change. But a lot of people don't want to take those actions because they don't feel comfortable. There's those feelings again with leaving others behind. And leaving others behind is something that they have already decided. You decided when you want to put the brakes on yourself within that type of environment. And a lot of people don't understand that this shit is 100% about choice. Every day, choice. That's what this shit is. Every day, choice. I don't have to work this hard at my company. I could clearly go back and hire somebody, pay them 100 grand a year to run this whole thing. Why would I do that? I'm enjoying the hell out of myself out here running my own shit and building my own stuff because I wanted to be responsible for the outcome. You see, no one walks around saying that they want to be responsible for the outcome. Because once you start planning and once you fail and once you see a disastrous failure, thanks to the fact that you didn't plan properly, that's what should make you want to make a plan. That's what should want to make you be more disciplined. That should make you want to be more learned within anything. But a lot of people give up because I don't know if I want to do this because the improper reward system ain't really here for people who take all this quote unquote time to do this.
Hmm. Yeah. So what you're saying when you say the improper reward system kind of goes into that the SysBIM or in general, because one thing I tend to because I don't and you don't focus on this either, other than to tell people to stop focusing on it, which is the whole women thing, right? Which is men, again, in the natural world, okay, don't talk about women. Let me repeat that. You go to my tribe, other tribes in Africa, so on and so forth. You go to the Middle East, so on and so forth. When you talk about women, it's kind of like hush, whatever, talk, or maybe you've gone a little too deep into whether you guys are super drunk now, and then somebody let something out about some particular conquest that they had vis-a-vis women. But this is not to, obviously not to denigrate women, okay? It is to say that a man's job, his particular sets of hierarchies, again, whether he be doing the warrior thing or he be doing the sage thing or the commerce thing, has nothing to do with women. It is a woman's job to keep a sharp eye for who is at the top of any of these particular pyramids, who is winning the race to go and take from there. And a functioning culture will have preserved for top men the viable top women, if you will. They do this through their mosques, their churches, their other kinds of organizations, or just family structures, for example, if it's an African thing, right? So, but it's not the case that men respect men who talk about women. Nowhere else. And again, these are universal natural things. Natural man does not respect another natural man talking about conquest of women. It is very feminine. It again goes to that whole thing about the aesthetic pursuits, which is men are not supposed to, what makes a man look good, okay, is not topical. No, it's not surface level, okay? That's not what it should be. It comes from a result of what he has within. It is a result of his stoicism. Now, stoicism has always been developed in any society where any kind of society amongst men, stoicism develops. In other words, whether you're talking about ancient hunter-gatherers, the hunters, the men, were stoics, whether they wrote it down or not. Because when you encounter the wilderness, when you encounter the nature and you're going after that animal, by definition, you're a stoic. By definition, you're one whom accepts that there are things that are outside of your control, but still you have a task to do. By definition, you're not caught up in topical things, on surface level things, on glittering, shiny little diamonds in your teeth, or how your ability to dribble a basketball, or how much stupid game comes out of your filthy mouth. Okay. By definition, none of that fucking works. Okay. Same thing, you bring in now the Maasai tribe or whatever, or let's say you take it down to Marcus Aurelius type stuff, the people who actually, rather than through oral culture, wrote it down on paper. The masculine way is the stoic way. And there's nothing further from the stoic way than game, swag, clothes, look at me, and or talking about women. Okay. You know what I mean? Is you're going to go out there and you're going to die or you're going to bring the meat home. The women, okay, are going to be appreciative of the fact that you brought the meat home. Okay, now, since we're broaching this issue, let me just say something that I think that is a reality in the modern context. The modern context is such that the bottom parts of Maslow's hierarchy, the parts whereby you need these men to go out there and hunt and bring the meat home for the women no longer need men for that. Let me say this again. Women no longer need, and I've recently Kevin Samuels has been doing the show after show after show of, modern women need men. But you will notice that the men that they need are actually women need men, but the men that they need are now, they have a middleman. It's been outsourced. In other words, the policeman, the fireman, the soldiers, the garbage collector, the men who do all the dangerous work, okay, vis-a-vis, as we said also, or akin to the hunting before, is now been outsourced by Western liberal democracy type civilization, okay? And Western liberal democracy has many good things to offer, okay? But the philosophical mindset, or a mindset based in reality, knows that there is no free lunch. You don't get everything. There are, to quote Thomas Sowell, no solutions, only trade-offs. So what do you trade off when you over-civilize a situation? What you do is you take the shackles off of women. What do I mean by that? The shackles that are on men are the shackles that stop them from doing physical violence. The shackles that are still in place, the shackles whereby if you remove them, you can clearly see. You can go to parts of the Congo and see what men do. It's not these men didn't rise out of hell all of a sudden. It's the same men, but once you take away the punishment and the chains, they're going to do what they do. The shackles that you put on women tend to be within the social sphere because they do social violence. They do emotional violence. Okay. Shame, guilt, insult need to be right. Unchecked hypergamy, if you will, and those kinds of things. It tends to be, that's where they can do the violence because that's how they're built. They don't have that upper body strength, so on and so forth. So they have to be slick. They got to be sly, as they should be, because you can't blame the biology for what it is. Okay, that's how it had to have survived. Okay, but when you take away the social, the need to have a social order from a woman, it's akin to taking away prison time and the law from men. Let me say that again. What men do is within the space of physical violence. We can chain them up. It's easy to see men's nature in that regard. What is a woman's nature? A woman's nature is more in the social and emotional sphere. They can manipulate and also come to manipulation themselves. That's why they can be marketed to and so on and so forth. What keeps them in check? It's a social net that keeps them in check, not physical bars. Women are not in prison for violent crimes like that. When you remove the need, the social structure that depended on the woman needing a man, and now you've outsourced it, you've removed a certain kind of check on them. Now, the only thing they need a man for is emotional needs. This is not the woman's fault. However, it's her responsibility, right? Because fault and responsibility are two different things, okay? Fault is Jeff Bezos hits you with a truck. That's Jeff Bezos' fault. It's still your responsibility to do the physical therapy, the mental therapy. Jeff Bezos can give you $10 billion. you still have to get on that treadmill and teach yourself how to walk. You need to go to that psychotherapy and treat yourself. Okay, so it is not the woman's fault in the sense that Western civilized liberal democracies has removed the social checks from her, but it's still her responsibility. But this is what we are facing today, or shall I say, a particular lens with which one can view the ground game, the ground truth, the reality of what we're facing, out of which all these other things arise. Basically is women don't need, emphasis on the word need, men anymore for these things. They've outsourced it. And concurrently, certain kinds of social shackles have been removed from them. And now they can go back either to their base nature and be like, hey, I'm just going for Pookie, right? Or they're going for this, I just want him to make me feel good. And we know that both of those leads to disaster, okay? Because the feel good thing, how long does that last? Doesn't last. The Pookie thing is going to lead to illegitimate babies, unproductive, blah, blah, blah. We know how that goes, okay? Now, what men, especially men in the manosphere, are expecting women to do, which I don't think is ever going to happen, is they're expecting women to rise up to the stoic level, okay? En masse. Yeah, they're expecting women to be like your band of brothers. They're expecting women to be like your hunting buddies, you know, to do things because, in other words, stoicism. We accept the reality and we're going to go hunt this thing and we could die, but we're going for the right. They're looking for a ride or die, right? And again, in mass, you will find one or two women who will in mass go there, but it is very much against their nature because it takes a lot of emotional violence to become a stoic. And that would be just a woman doing all kinds of damage to herself, you know, to do that. And it's not feminine either, to be honest with you. Stoicism is not feminine. So they don't need men. Now you're like, okay, well, how don't you just rise over to the top of that stoicism level, which is, you know, the top of the hierarchy of Maslow's hierarchy of needs now, and just work with me because we have a project to work on. But that's not what a woman is built for. Okay, so you need to go fix the culture one way or the other, or you need to take away from the woman something else which she needs, which is babies. Okay, she needs the protection and provision, which she doesn't need a man for that now, but she still needs babies. Okay, so and she still wants the babies from the top. You know, she still wants a viable specimen, right, for the babies. But I've gone a little too far afield in terms of not giving solutions. But basically, this is my view of the landscape that we're in. This is my view of the problems that we face. And this is what I have to say about where women will not go. You're not going to get women to all of a sudden become stoics. As a matter of fact, I don't even think you want them to go there. That's not what they do. Women are more about the experience, existentialism, the feelings, the being true to the moment, that kind of thing. Stoicism is very different, and that's a man's domain.
Yeah, it's just that, again, with everything you just said, people still want to produce, and then they want to add their production to somebody else who's also producing and don't need you and don't respect you and has been socialized to not care. And there are no, because what you're talking about is a level of consequences. This is why the culture of women that I deal with, if the level of consequences is not high for stepping out or stepping around, then there's no need to deal with them, because I'm dealing with a quote unquote equal within the environment, and that's not how that's supposed to work. Like, I didn't get my stuff together and do all of this stuff to be unhappy with a co-partner within my household that I have to share power with. That's not why I did all this. And I grew up in a time where I seen stuff actually work. But a lot of these people, they haven't been able to see the things that haven't worked. It's kind of like telling people about the German experience when they've never left their small rural town before. And it's like you can share perspective. This is why we do anything, is to gain perspective. But surrender is incredibly easy. Dealing with this stuff is incredibly easy. Feeding yourself into this stuff and acting like you don't have choice is incredibly easy. And what it is that people don't want to, like me, I wanted to build a world where nobody else's opinion mattered but mine. It took a while, but now that I'm here, and now that I have this power, I'm only going to give this power away, or not even give it away, only
Mhm.
going to allow people to be within my sphere who actually respects the actual path. Because me, I don't need anything. And
Mhm.
that's the actual problem. People are okay with glad handing their way through a process that they didn't build. And that doesn't really work overall.
Yeah, it is a now. I haven't said everything I just said, and also it goes in line with what you just said, which is the easy path. What I also understand as ground truth, because again, I and thanks Black Curls for sharing the channel. Seems like my
Yeah.
own link has an issue, so thank you. I believe in facing things squarely. I naturally have a stoic disposition, and also I'm a man of philosophy, if you will. So, in reality, I've stated that, in given the civilization, the kind of civilization that because there are many ways to civilize. Okay, the Saudi Arabia is very civilized. Okay, but just civilize them. They just civilize themselves in a different way. But Western liberal democracy type civilization has a trade-off, which means that women will not need you anymore en masse. Now, what is then to be done by the men, and also what is to be done by the women? Because I think this falls mainly on men. Why?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like there's no reason at this point we don't even need to say why it falls on men. It's like because it falls on you, bro. It's like stop. It's like it should be obvious by now that you're the one who builds. You're the one with the stoic abilities. You're the one who is not so beholden to. You are the one that can do emotional violence to yourself. You're the one that can be like, okay, I'm gonna rough it and tough it through circumstances in order to get the outcomes that I'm looking for. But I also do understand that it's only a small cohort of men or small cohort of people that ever have the ability to understand what you and I are even talking about. In other words, truly understand it, truly accept it, and then be able to take action. Okay. And you know this, right? You
Yeah.
know that it's not going to be a whole bunch of people all of a sudden. However, if we look at cultures that work, these people, right, whom are able to look at it in this from this level, they have ways of paving the land, okay, uh, creating these little ditches whereby the other people whom so there are people who hover over the land, and let's call those types the kinds that and the manosphere will have a higher representation of that type because they're here and they hear it, and it's a self-selective group, so they're going to choose to get out of the hood if we were to use that kind of simple parameter, right? Or they're also going to be able to choose to see the truth and stop asking women to do stuff that they're not going to do. Okay, women are not going to be your band of brothers. Women are not going to be your hunting partners. Women are not going to do this stoic loyalty thing. It is not them. Don't hate them for it. You don't even want them to do that. Trust me. Stoicism and that other kind of loyalty you're talking about is a male thing. They don't do it. Get it? I think that this is something I don't hear it said a lot in the manosphere, but it's something that I don't agree with. That whole loyalty stuff. A man's loyalty and a woman's loyalty, very different. They don't need you. There's no reason for them to be loyal the way you think that loyalty works. Okay.
Yeah.
Your loyalty is the hunting loyalty, the band of brothers loyalty, the guy next to me in the foxhole loyalty. That is not a woman's place. They don't
Yeah.
do
I
that
mean,
stuff.
she would freely let herself get quote unquote taken by the enemy tribe, just so long as she don't have to sacrifice anything personally. And this is what
Exactly.
people don't understand, that it's like, okay, you have an enormous number of male clowns who have showed up within this environment, and you have to, and people ask me, so why would the women go over there to those guys' channel? I'm like, because they get the most out of the man passively without any investment on her part. And what you're seeing is a social dynamic that they're trying to change. And I'm like, so what you don't do is you don't watch the same women monkey branch over to reasonable men's channel after they have put themselves in those types of situations. And it's like, listen, this stuff is static. It's not going to change. And what these people are doing in their personal life will show up in what environments that they hang themselves around. All you got to do is sit and wait. You don't have to wait for an actual moment where it changes. It's never going to change. It isn't. And
Hmm.
as long as you make them pay a social cost for it not changing, that's when you
Exactly.
can make it change. Because in other societies and cultures, they're like, look, we're just not dealing with XYZ people and nobody's going to show them a level of protection. But see, within this environment, you have men who actively work against men's actual brotherhood within the environment, and they actively work against and undermine men's power within the same environment. So the only thing you can do at that point is to remove oneself from the actual environment, from the actual level of things that are actually celebrated within the environment. So that way you can regain your actual sense of self. Because if you feed yourself
Yes,
into it the other way, it's never going to work for you.
it will not work. You are fighting against nature. You cannot wish nature away. You cannot do fairy tale type stuff. Again, you have to be a man. You don't wish that the antelope is just going to fall towards you. You don't wish that the lion is just not going to attack your herd of sheep. You don't wish those things away. And that's why I say that no matter what culture it is, the man's philosophy is stoicism, whether they write it down or whether it's just inculcated in them through rites, rituals, and stories or whatever. And hence we have developed that way. It's not the woman's way. The woman is, how do I keep a social thing going, okay? And how do I take advantage of the places where my resources are coming from so that I can survive, protect my offspring who has no power? How do I protect a baby, in other words? And all that stoic stuff, all the babies are going to die. If I don't give in to this attacking tribe and then just go with that, my babies are going to die, right? So it is in her best interest to be the way she is. It is your best interest to be the way you are. Asking her to become a stoic now because you've taken away your certain needs that she has of you, now she should be loyal like a stoic hunter, like your stoic, foxhole dweller, is crazy. So now the point is, what is to be done, what can be done, the places that things have worked in, what do they do? What they do is that they understand that only a certain percentage of people operate at this level. The level whereby, even though it sounds obvious to you and I what we're saying right now, some people are just not never gonna. Some people have not even take. If this is step 15, people are not never gonna even take step 1. They don't even understand. They don't even get Stoicism. What like Maz like they need. No, you'll break their brain before they get here. Okay, and this is well understood, right? But how do you funnel the masses? Okay, how do you funnel the sheep? How do you funnel the people who stay on the ground? That's how I like to put it. The people who hover above the ground need to pave the ground in a way such that these little billiard balls flow in a particular direction. And they have done this through things like rites of passage, through things like understanding of certain hierarchies, right? Through social sets of carrots and sticks, okay, with which you leverage. And they do this quite actively. It is not some kind of a thing whereby it's like, oh, it just happens of its own accord. No, you actually have to do it. And they do it through these institutions, such as their churches and so on and so forth. But when I say churches, people tend to just picture a particular church. When I say churches, I'm talking about the realm of story, the realm of mythology, the realm of mind control, the realm of hierarchy setting, all that kind of stuff. Now, this then takes us deeper into, we're not going from level 15 to like level 40 in terms of being Machiavellian about how you structure things. Okay, because this is not about believing in your mythology. If you read Plato's Republic, Plato was talking about the right and wrong type of myths. the right and wrong type of gods. Okay, so he's literally saying, okay, Plato's Republic is about how the perfect society. Some kind of, they're arguing, they're talking, they're drinking, and they're talking about what would be the best kind of society. And these type of people understand that there are gods out there and they affect people. There are myths out there and they affect people. What's the right kind of god and the right kind of myth? What are the effects it has? People on that level that can talk that kind of talk are very few, okay? Because then they do it, they set it up, and then the believers, if you will, follow. But as I said, this is level 40 type stuff, and this is not necessarily the forum for that kind of a conversation. But I only want to point in that direction. That is the mountain, that is the hill you have to take. The task is huge, and constantly hitting women over the head and telling them to be loyal stoics ain't gonna work.
Yeah, it's and a lot of people don't understand that they themselves have an inordinate amount of control over how these people treat you within society, regardless of what they do in other situations in the same society.
Hmm.
And that's just where we are. And most people don't understand that you are not supposed to be a male compliant person.
A male compliant person. What do you mean by that?
Yes. Yeah, you wasn't supposed to be compliant with the actual society here if you know it's not good overall for order. You were not
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be a male compliant person here. You were supposed to gain your own power, which takes a while and a lot of focus to remove yourself from the actual environment of things that doesn't support you positively for a type of outcome. And a lot of people have just decided that I'm just going to be male compliant with what's here because I'm
Mm-hmm.
rewarded by being compliant versus reserving the stoicism that you're talking about. They decided
Exactly.
to give away power as the for access rather than restricting access to gain power.
Yeah. And again, because of my love of reality, I always got to point back that only a certain number will be able to self-stoify, if you will. Let me coin a term, to stoify yourself. In other words, self-mastery by yourself, right? Not as a result of, oh, I'm part of the Maasai tribe. And when I was 10 years old, they made me hunt a lion. Now they helped me and stuff, but that stuff is scary as shit. Or me in my tribe, there's certain rituals that I had to go through, right? Where, they take you into, and as a boy, this stuff is scary. Going into the forest, you at night, they tell you not to look back, all kinds of stuff that scares you shitless. You go sleep out there for a night. You get marked with in other words, things that kind of will begin to show you, hey, as a man, you need to put your boyhood stuff aside, and on and on and on, which again are the kinds of things that I think are necessary, right? Which these people whom can operate at this level need to instantiate in real life, right? Whether it be the bar mitzvah or this, that, or the other. These kinds of, again, things in Storyville, things in Storyland, things in the world of mythology, religion, so on and so forth, no society has done without them. You need it for the masses, okay? Not to be too cynical, but religion is the opium of the masses. But it's not just religion. Again, it is about the people whom cannot self-direct themselves to stoicism. So, having said that, and we, the ones who can do that, we know that what we can do is leave a particular environment and go get the outcomes that we want, so somewhere else. So the whole cisbim thing, for example, 100% agree. I'm actually like I have a Ghanaian fiance, um, getting married in March, for example, right? And and by the way, since I'm going to talk about the marriage topic, I'm getting married with both eyes open. I'm getting married with both eyes open, with full understanding of what a woman is and what a man is, and what my particular goals are for getting married. Okay, I look at my life as a company, and I know what the part or the role that a woman plays in that company, and it is a role that I cannot play because I understand the difference between men and women. Okay, I don't go asking women to do things that are anti their nature. Okay, so I just wanted to say that one thing, which is marriage is not necessary for everybody, but if you're gonna do it, have your both eyes open. And the stoic mindset says, it could blow up in your face 100%, right? And you know that going in, but you still have a task to do. Just like when I set up this particular company, or I'm branch out to this other particular role, I'm going to go into this other market. It could blow up in my face. Ain't that right, MOT? But it doesn't stop you from doing it. So now, we, the ones that can do that by ourselves, can know to get out of the market. However, if to the degree to which we care about the environment that we're leaving, we need to understand that we need to do, and it is a daunting task, and it's a generational task, therefore, okay? It's not gonna happen with you, maybe not even with your child. It may be with your grandchildren, and if you're long enough to see that, that's when the effects will happen. But it's a actual, you actually have to do it. You don't just talk about it. There is a talk arm. There is a, Voice of America propaganda arm, or whatever arm, a Rush Limbaugh arm to this whole thing, right? In other words, you need people saying the truth, spreading the propaganda, if you will. But you also need people whom are able to actively create levers and go take certain organs of influence and then start to take over certain communities via these organs of influence, starting to instantiate certain, look, as I said, several generations. I'm not making this seem like, oh, well, you're just going to do this next week. But it is what has to be done to the degree to which we care about it, is we need to go ahead and recreate another story, another mythology, but not another one, because ones already exist there. Okay, just like the Christians, when they come in, they take over, they just use the rituals of the people that are already there, right? And they do it active. It's not these things have been done over thousands of years. People do these things, but it's not everybody that does it. Those of us whom can understand to the degree to which we care, we need to see that that is a task in front of us. They already have things that they believe in, and it tends to be, let's say, Christianity or so on and so forth. And you can go in there and you can leverage it in certain ways. Okay. Not easy, not going to happen next week. You're not going to take away the female domination of the churches next week. But you need to understand that that is the realm, again, the realm of story, myth, religion, all that kind of stuff. That's how you dig the land so that these billiard balls, or, these little pebbles, okay, who cannot hover above, will flow in the directions that you wish them to flow towards.
Yeah, and what people don't understand, that this stuff is a process, man. It's always been a process. And struggle was not supposed to be a societal standard. It was supposed to be one generation, and then you were supposed to move on out of that. So, for me personally, when people start to complain about, well, I want to use the word complain, but be overly focused on immigrants, I'm like, dude, those people are 25 years behind when they get here in some cases, depending on where they come from. No matter what, if you're maximizing what you're supposed to do within the environment, you're always going to be ahead of them. This thing is about power grab, money grab, resource grab, land grab, and being able to protect your investments. And guess what? No one here has pure DNA. Get it mapped. You'll realize that at some point, your ancestors decide that this ain't working for us, and we got to roll out. But a lot of people are thinking that, well, I'm just going to sit here until a better system arises or shows up. And I'm like, man, you're wasting your time, because the better system is you. You are the better system. The chances that you take within this time that you have here, you are the best person. You have the vantage point. You have everything here that everybody else could have had. So you can't keep waiting on these other people. You got to be able to make sure that you're out here doing this stuff yourself. And a lot of people are just waiting because they don't want to put the time investment in to do it for oneself. And I mean, dude, it's better when it's yours. It's better when it's yours. And it's better when you don't have to share it. And it's better when you don't have to listen to other people's opinions. Thanks, RB Business, for the $2 super chat. Thanks. Hold on a second. Hold on, let me go to the other super chats before I go for it. Okay, now I can't scroll up here. Jesseville, thanks for the $9.99 super chat. Thanks, Original Man, for the $19.99 super chat. Thanks so much. RB Business 2, thanks for the $2 super chat. For some reason I can't scroll up here. What's going on? Maybe this thing is too dark for me to see. Thanks for the $9.99 super chat. Amazing conversation. Whoever that is, some reason I can't scroll up, or maybe that's just me. But this is just where we are, and people need to understand that all this stuff is centers around choice. It's still based on choice. And if you surrender to the improper reward system, you're not going to make it. You're not. And you're not going to monkey branch from the improper reward system to the field of tangibles. You got two paths in front of you. I tell people, you have the path of image, and you have the path of substance. One takes not that much investment to get into,
Hmm.
and the other one takes a lot more discipline and hard work to get into, but the reward is greater.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Indeed.
I just want people to make the better and the proper choice, because the people who's benefiting off of the improper choice, our numbers are far too great. And we can't wait for those numbers to just turn around and get lesser as time goes on. You, every man listening, all 110 of them, you have an active role in making sure that this stuff doesn't go on another generation. You're on the ground floor of destroying this entire thing in the way it works. It got damaged on a household by household basis, and it's going to be fixed on a household by household basis. Oh, Goshen with the $100 super chat. Shalom, Mike and MOT. Yeah, thanks for coming through. Johnny Blaze, $3.99 for the coffee. Thanks so much for that. And this is what I'm saying, that we now know that being a male submissive and a male compliant within this type of society and framework isn't going to get you anywhere. It isn't.
Mm-hmm. And if we go back to the steps 1 to 15 type stuff, which is, just to get to the point where you're obviously taking advantage of your own node in the network, taking advantage of yourself as an individual, or should I say, developing your node in the network, developing your individual talents, capacities, maximizing those, developing your economic and financial freedom, if you will, your own mastery of yourself, right? That step 1 to 15 stuff. And then I say from 15 up is where then you now, if you care to, and to the degree to which your talents are amenable to that, and you're getting where you fit in, if you want to turn around and then fix society or whatever your group, that's when the bigger task comes in. It is not a small task at all. But if we go back to step 1 to 15, you need to do these things because you have no choice in the matter. Your life is a use it or lose it proposition. It's something that I always say. Basically, your bones, your muscles, your immune system, they need stress. You need to be afraid, you need to be scared, therefore, in your mental, in your operations, in your doings in the world. Everything atrophies in terms of human systems, complex systems, as a matter of fact, because it's an economic thing as well, because economies also need stress. Things need to be shaken up in order for them to get to grow. Complex things, that is.
Challenge.
Exactly. They need to be challenged. Again, your muscles, your bones, we are not fragile. We're anti-fragile. Shout out to Nassim Taleb, who wrote that book, Anti-Fragility. Highly recommend that book along with The Black Swan. Anti-Fragility and Black Swan, Nassim Taleb. Very good insights into complex systems and why decentralization is good. But the points being learned from that is this: an anti-fragile system is a system that dies when it's protected, a system that dies in bubble wrap, in other words. A fragile system is one that you put in bubble wrap and you use a champagne glass. You ship it, you say fragile, right? That means don't shake the box, okay? A robust system, which is zero, Okay, let's say -1 is fragile. Okay, I don't want to get numerical, but if you're in a number line, -1 is fragile. Put it in a box. Don't shake it. 0 is robust, and people tend to make the mistake of only comparing robust to fragile. 0 is a rock. You don't have to put anything on the box. If the box is shaken, it's fine. If the box is left alone, it's fine. But there's another box, okay, which is the opposite of fragile, which says, please shake the box, okay? And is that clear in the chat? Can I get a 1 in the chat? Let me take over the stream for a second. Let me get a 1 in the chat if what I just explained is clear, okay? There are systems that are fragile, which you put on the box. Don't shake the box, please. There's another system that doesn't care. It's a ton of bricks, okay? You shake the box, it's fine. Don't shake the box, it's not fine. You don't have to say anything on the box. There is a third box, which is anti-fragile, which you are, which complex systems are, which the ecosystem is, which says, please shake this box. If you don't shake the box, it dies. If you don't put stress on your bones, it atrophies. You don't put stress on your muscles, it atrophies. You don't put stress in your brain cells and your skills and your networks and also your outside endeavors, right? Which is and the way in which you engage with the environment and the fear in which it puts in you, pushing of the envelope, it actually dies. So the reason why you should take steps 1 through 15 and develop yourself regardless of your environment, regardless of, oh, I didn't see any other Black person in the sciences, so I didn't go there, which is such a bitch thing to say as a man. You need to be slapped across the face, back to your senses, okay? You don't have a choice on this matter. You will atrophy and die. And when you atrophy and die, and those are the results that you have. When I say you don't have a choice, what I mean is the choice is clear. In other words, you do have a choice. You could choose to die, right? Or you could choose to go into the stress, go into the resistance. Where you see resistance, where you see, oh, there is no Black person over there. You should gladly go in there because that's going to give you a lot of resistance. It's going to build your muscles more. That's how you should be looking at resistance. That's how you should be looking at pushing the envelope. That's how you should be looking at action. That's how you should be looking at fear. Take action, move into the fear. Take advantage of opportunities that come before you. Always say yes. You'll figure it out later. That way you expand your ability. You always make your net bigger than what is particularly needed for what you may think the little fish that you're getting, because you never know the fish that is passing, the opportunities that are passing by you, because you're always saying no and you're always waiting to be ready. Never do any of this, okay? I know I just said a lot there, but the basic idea is this. We need to be shaken up. We need to be in fear. We need to be taking action. We need to be pushing direction into the headwind, okay? So you waiting for seeing people that are like you, hella feminine attitude, you're a bitch ass nigga, okay? But chill, okay, it's fine, it's fine. After you get your blood pressure up and it's fine, it's okay, I get it. It's not your fault. But the point is, just like your muscles and your immune system and everything else, that's the place you should be wanting to go into. You need to be going into the resistance because that's where thriving happens. That's how the biological system works.
Yeah. Thanks for the $5 super chat, William 3R. Yeah, it's just that we mortgage a lot of stuff that we should be actually investing in. That's most of the problem here. It's like people want to give away the best parts of their life, and then they want the improper reward system to kind of catch them at the bottom floor here. And you have to understand that having the chance to be able to produce, that is the reward system.
Mm-hmm. It's now a lot of this stuff should be obvious, okay? A lot of this stuff should be obvious, but we understand why. Like, for example, I've heard you, I listen to you quite often, and you talk about seeing these broken people. Now, in the society where I come from, I'm not so used to it, so I didn't quite understand. So perhaps I didn't have a lot of empathy for men whom have been hyper feminized in a particular environment which I am not very familiar with. And I gotta say, look, I'm Nigerian. I'm not the expert in the community type stuff. I'm very removed from it. I didn't grow up in there. But because you talk about having to hire some of these people, for example, or at least attempting to hire them. I had a conversation with a guy a couple of weeks ago, because some people reach out to me like, internship or mentorship or whatever. And the level of, I don't even know what to call it. This person is studied something in college which she shouldn't have studied. Okay, number one, in the liberal arts type stuff. They have a mindset which is not very rigid, which is about think, okay, well, what exactly do you want? Okay. And I know not everybody thinks this way, but at least you should be able to answer you should be able to take on the question. The question should not surprise you. In other words, their answers were just about feelings and how they want to help the community and how they want to do. It was so feeling. And I'm like, okay, well, how much resources would it take? Okay. I had a series of questions that I ask people. I always say, well, what do you want? Why do you want it? And how can I help you? How do you think I can help you? Whenever they reach out to me for this kind of a mentorship type stuff. And the what you want is very key. Many people don't ask that. And then why you want it as well. Because people just think of a lifestyle. They think of money, or they think of, I want to help. It's like, okay, then put yourself in an island, for example, and you had all the resources in the world. What would you be doing? This helps you to figure out if you're an intrinsically or extrinsically motivated person. A good thing. I already know I'm intrinsically motivated. You put me in that island and I have all the resources. I'm going to write books, read books, make music, learn more and more about physics, do experiments and so on and so forth. I'm very intrinsically motivated. If you're in that island and you have all the resources and you're thinking, I want to go out there and reach out to people, teach people, or build something, then you're extrinsically motivated. Now you have all these resources. What will you do with these resources from this island, right? Then you need to start thinking, oh, okay, I think I want this, this, and this. Okay, you need to understand that resources are not for you to go swing in a hammock somewhere, which is what people tend to think, the lifestyle, the aesthetic thing again. But I've had conversations with these people, broken people, again, hyper feminized, whom just stop at the level of lifestyle, or they stop at the level of wanting to help, not having a structure, studying liberal arts crap, which is not going to help them do anything, and just wishing and hoping and wishing and praying. And you can just tell, but from the voice, like literally from the guy's voice, I could tell he was just rudderless and directionless. And obviously he gave me his background too, and I could see why. Yeah, it's typical story, right? Single mother, hyper masculine single mother that just constantly emasculated the hell out of him his whole life, right?
Yeah. And it's like, people have to understand that if you're on the wrong path, it's going to take 2, 3, or maybe even 5 times the work to go into a new direction. It isn't just going to be, I want the mind frame of being successful and boom, success happens. A lot of people have the mind frame of success. They practice a level of discipline, and it takes them a long time to get there. You got to have the mind state to attain it, because if you don't have the mind state to attain it and keep your mind free and clear of all these other things, the moment you be minimally rewarded within the society, you're going to turn right back around and give it to those improper people, because you now got something that they want. And now you want to be rewarded because now it's quote unquote your time. This is how the stuff happened within the COVID-19, and how everybody is focused on the kind of game thing when they need to be focused on staying the hell away from these new quote unquote bad options that have shown up at the table. Because these bad options are here by virtue of choice, as in they made the wrong choice. So now you become the right choice temporarily, only to slide back into the world, going back into normal. And now you're kind of fixed up with these people, and now it becomes the wrong choice again later on to that person, but they wanted to be improperly rewarded. So that way they ignored the consequences until the consequences certainly came back up. So it's like, look, we got to be able to just look at this stuff and just be honest about the actual situation. There's nothing wrong with being honest about the situation and having an actual tangible plan that you test, that you compare, that you're actually following, that you have a way station that you're actually looking back at in order for these things to work. Because even me at this level, I have to stop and say, damn, I just feel lost right now. I need to take some time out, a couple of days out, go check with some people to see if I'm on the right path. I have to do all the same stuff that I'm telling people that they have to do. I'm still doing it myself. I'm not exempt from the consequences. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
the consequences are quite easier at this level because there's a hell of a lot of things that people want you to quote unquote invest in, and a lot of those things that I'm not privy to. And if they are mastery of leading me into abject consequences, I can feel like I've failed. When the only thing I've done is I haven't done my own due diligence about the process and trying to get an improper reward called investment. When it's not
Mm-hmm.
really an investment, it's an emotional investment. It's not a tangible investment because I didn't understand the process. Because a proper way of understanding opportunity, for me anyway, it comes when my level of understanding meets their level of practice. And if I can't
Mm.
find a way to get there quickly, or I can't find a way to get there on my own time, I need to be able to call in reinforcements to do that. Now, within this society, people think that asking for help is a bad idea. Me, I don't give a damn. I cannot wait to call in reinforcement because you never know what I'm going to call in. Because I'm going to call in people to make sure that my interests are actually set. And so that way I'm not bringing people on or having people within an environment that they don't belong because I got mouthpieced into an actual thing that this person can't actually produce. What's going on, Nagon? 11.
100%, man. When you live life from the inside out, which as you should, then you're going to understand where your limitations are. Okay. If we just keep it even within a very simple framework of, let's say, entrepreneur type stuff, I am an entrepreneur type, means that I start shit. I'm not necessarily the best at following rules, though. Okay. So I know that I quickly need a CEO, an accountant, a lawyer, those types, right? That create systems, make rules, dot the I's, cross the T's, and so on and so forth. Okay. Because I live life from my inside out. I know my lane. I know what I'm good at. These other types are needed as well, but I'm not no CEO, no accountant, no lawyer. I'm just the guy who's going to take risks, put risk upon myself, break rules in order to establish new things, and so on and so forth. But furthermore, into the living life from the inside out is the fact that that is the way to actually maximize your outward performance. People don't understand that the way to bring down all the barriers. Now, I know it's not easy, okay? The first question you asked me was, how did I get into this meditation thing? Okay. Now, that whole meditation thing has to do with mastery of your subjective consciousness, okay? There are three things that make up your subjective consciousness. You could break it down further, okay? But these three cover it. Feelings in your body, image in your head, and talk in your head. Image in your head and talk in your head, those are thoughts, right? You can close your eyes right now, you can see the dream going on. Random images going on, perhaps voices. If you steal your mind enough, there's voices going on, maybe songs playing, so on and so forth. And then you have feelings in the body, okay, including your external senses, but also your internal senses, which could be of an emotional sort or not emotional sort. But it's all feeling in the body, right? You feel it in your gut, you feel it in your stomach, your neck tightens up, the back of your neck gets hot, the back of your ear gets hot, you get goosebumps in your skin. So there's this subjective consciousness. In other words, your user interface, how you operate in the world, no matter what, from when you're born to when you die, will always be feelings in your body, image in your head, and talk in your head. How do you master that? And how do you understand that that's the vehicle within which that's like the graphical interface? That's the dashboard. Those are the gauges within the vehicle that you're operating, because you're the observer. When you're not in your feelings and you're not in your head, which you shouldn't be, you're the observer. And the whole point is to create that observer thing and to live from the inside out. Now, doing that is the best way to remove all these barriers, such as, well, I have a goal to achieve. Well, how long would it take? When you're living from the inside out, it doesn't matter how long it takes, okay? Because you're living in the moment. When you're living from the inside out, things such as being generous, okay? Or things such as why you, in other words, let's take it down a level to something everyone understands. When you don't need her number, that's when you get her number. When you don't need things, you actually attract them to you. Anyone who knows me knows I'm not a BS woo-woo type of person. So what I just said right now is not BS and woo-woo. It's a psychological thing. In other words, the mastery of something, like it says in the Bible, to those whom have, more will be given. You know this, MOT. You're talking about people throwing opportunities at you, right?
Yeah.
Why? Because you already have. People don't throw opportunities at people who don't have. People don't throw numbers at people whom they know could get numbers. You know what I mean? To talk about, again, we as men understand that female thing, right? Where it's like, that when you don't give a damn about her number because you have mastered something and you're living in the moment and you're right there, that's when you can get your number. This is all about living from the inside out. People give to those, whether it be a loan or an investment opportunity or a phone number, those whom have demonstrated mastery. It's from the inside out. Okay. So how long will it take for me to do stuff? Doesn't matter. You're living from the inside out. How should I master money or treat money like you're the master of it? That's why generosity is key. Some people know me for doing the super chat thing. Part of that is because I like to have fun, but another part of it is a practice that I have, which is you need to master money quite literally. You need to treat it like it's a little toy. You need to be like, money, I don't need it. No, money needs me. I don't need money. Money needs me. That kind of a thing. And it's not by magic, or it's not some kind of law of attraction woo-woo stuff. But guess what happens? I start to train myself to bring down certain barriers of risk taking, bring down certain barriers. In other words, barriers that will stop me from taking risks, barriers that will stop me from thinking that I actually deserve certain things. You'll be surprised how much we hold ourselves back because we don't think we belong there. But when you start mastering money this way, which is a quick way of doing it is by giving. Just give a big tip, okay? The fear of you giving a tip represents a block within yourself. It is an emotional block that you have that is going to block you from going out there to make more money. If you're scared of giving a $20 tip for a $5 cup of coffee, realize, okay, you have a $20 fear. Surpass that $20 fear. Surpass the $50 fear. Surpass then the $100 fear. Oh crap, can I surpass a $500 fear? Can I give a $500 super chat randomly? It is a fear that you have, okay? And when you surpass that, you from the inside out are going to start doing things that you never thought you could do. The reason people don't do this from the inside out thing is because, number one, it's hard to master yourself to begin with. And then number two, we cannot really understand the linear consequence path. It's not like, because when you do things from the outside, I go out there, I make 5 phone calls, I maybe close 1 client, that kind of a thing. But when you do this thing of like, okay, being generous to remove your fear, you don't necessarily see the linear path. So it gets fuzzy for people. But you need to understand that things don't happen linearly, okay? Things happen exponentially. Things happen, you gotta be willing to understand chaos and the fractal nature of the world. Not to get hyper intellectual with it, but that's how when you live from the inside out, things don't happen linearly anymore. You're setting yourself up for things. You're setting yourself up for opportunities. In other words, me giving this money is removing a certain amount of fear, so that when a certain opportunity comes by my way, I actually don't have the fear anymore, and I can go out and grab a hold of it. That's not a linear path because I don't even know what that opportunity is. But it all starts with mastery of your subjective consciousness, and that's one of the most important things that I do, and I also talk about in my channel.
All right, cool. So I want to thank you for coming through, man. You got any additional last words, or before we get up out of here, because we're at the 2-hour mark. I want to.
Indeed. So, well, first of all, I would like to thank you. Right, I like your channel, and I also like when you go on Bernard and you with your flamethrower and you do your thing. It's funny. It's quite entertaining. But definitely thank you and for having me here. I want to just reiterate certain points that I made, which is that success is your duty. It is not a question of it is your duty, which is a responsibility. And rights and emotions, self-esteem, and all that crap. Your duty as a man is about discipline. Your responsibility as a man is to succeed. You succeed because externally, there are problems that are out there to be solved. The world is not starved for problems. Hence, it is not starved for success, because success just simply means, solving those problems. Okay. And then internally, which is the main thing, is that if you do not push yourself, you atrophy. If you not push your bones, your muscles, your immune system, your psyche, your goals, your networks, all that kind of stuff, cultivate your talents, you actually die, you self-destruct. Hence, the reasons why you need to do that stuff. Okay. And then on the higher level, basically, men don't, it's not a higher level, it's just a sidestep here. Women in the Western democracy, liberal type stuff, don't really need men for the lower stuff, for the protection and provision anymore. Okay. Don't go hitting them over the head, telling them, oh, but you should now also want this other. It's like, no, you have to retreat and think systematically. Retreat and think systematically. And with that, I would like to thank you again. And I'm out.
All right. I want to thank Ike for coming on. This is a very important interview. When I listen to his live streams, I'm like, I got to have this guy on. I want to thank Mr. Fantastic for sharing my stream and $20 Cash App. For some reason, I didn't hear the cash thing in the email. I don't know what's going on with that. But I just want to let you guys know that all this stuff is within your power to change. It is also within your power to surrender. Listen, life is going to be hard, man, but make sure that you're working for a proper outcome. So that way you can be able to keep this actual experience as academic as possible to the next group of people that you run into, and that the next people that you actually interact with. What's going on, Game Changing? Thanks for the $5 Super Chat number 668. My fear is that I may not be able to live up to the title of monarch, but that has been bestowed on me from the head. Yeah, you have to understand, man. Like, hey, I didn't want to be no sharecropper, man. I seen what my grandfather went through, read about the history of the area, thought it was unacceptable. I had to get out and see the world and make changes to it. I want to thank everybody for coming through. I would like to see a hell of a lot more people in Ike's chat when he actually goes live. Please make sure that you subscribe to the channel. His actual channel is in the description box. If you don't do anything else, make sure you subscribe to the dude's channel and pay attention to what's going on around here. So that way we can be able to do this. If you guys so inclined, you can subscribe to my Patreon. It's mantomorrow.com. I'm sorry, patreon.com/mantomorrow. So with that said, I want to thank everybody for coming through. And you guys have a really nice rest of your Sunday. Peace. Hold on, let me make sure I can stop this thing. Oh.
Young man, do you want to succeed, to expand beyond your horizons? If you want to be free, then you must learn to master yourself, your thoughts, feelings, your body and spirit. Master your subjective consciousness. Every action has an opposite and equal reaction. The world outside of yourself is ruled by those who are not ruled by their base instincts. Young man, go forth into the world after this. Meditate, contemplate, then plan and execute an action towards success. Take a risk, break the rules, and be disciplined within self.